Welcome, FSPA members. Today's webinar is Windows 10 Migration, the Revenue Opportunity, presented by Mark Smith of MVP Financial. I'm on here first. Don't worry, we're going to get to Mark. Before we get started, I just wanted to do the housekeeping. You are muted for a couple of reasons. One is we don't need the slamming doors, barking dogs, and tapping. Also, we are recording this, so we wanted to have the audio as clear as possible. We do want to encourage questions and your comments. So please use the question viewer in the question box in your webcast viewer to ask questions, and I will be monitoring that during the presentation. To not mess with Mark's presentation, we will take the questions one by one at the end of the program. The webinar is set for an hour, but we will stay until all the questions are answered. If you want to be able to speak, you have to have used your PIN when you connected your audio. Otherwise, I can't unmute you. And just so you know that, if you want to be unmuted, you can raise your hand and in the question box just type, I'd like a chance to speak. We will be uploading this webinar to the FSPA website, so you can refer back to it. I expect to have it uploaded by tomorrow afternoon. And Mark has agreed that we will email the PowerPoint from today to all of the registered attendees, so that will also go out probably later today. With all that said, let's get started. I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mark Smith.
Thank you so much, BJ. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for everyone who signed up for the webinar today. I think, as with our company, MVP, with the small number of banks and credit unions that we work with in California, I think I feel the pain of the deployers and service companies of the FSPA of what you're going through with Windows 10 migration right now. I don't think there's a hotter topic out there amongst the bankers. It is clear that they want answers, and answers are a little vague right now as to what's going to happen with Windows 10. But the purpose of this is to go over very quickly the timelines, what's happening, what's kind of the snapshot of what it is today, and also to look at opportunities that I think that are going to be viable for service providers and ATM deployers, especially in helping banks, credit unions get through this migration path. So I hope to talk a bit about some things that are important to all of you. But just to rehash the timelines, the end of support of Windows 7 will occur January 14th of 2020. The Windows 10 information that I've found is talking about support until 2026, which I find interesting because it really is touting a fairly limited lifespan of support. But they are factoring that Win 10 was introduced in 2015, so Windows is out there talking very highly of their lengthy support for this. Unfortunately, in the ATM world, by the time we're there, I hope that they extend it further than 2026. Banks and credit unions are clearly being pressured to upgrade or replace their ATMs. We are hearing every day about what is the necessary upgrade or replacement path. And so I'm sure that a lot of you, as well as we are doing surveys and analysis of the fleets in the field and what can be changed out as opposed to replaced entirely. So that's probably commonplace. But something I found a little bit shocking is the cost of migration globally, and this is all really due to Windows, is approximately $5.6 billion for the banks and credit unions globally to adjust to Windows 10 just on ATMs. Obviously, what we're all hearing out there is nobody's happy with the cost, because just the cost to upgrade is highly significant. You're looking at some costs around, $4,500 all the way up to $7,000, $8,000, depending on what they're going to charge you to load software and et cetera. So we're seeing pricing all across the board of where it's going to be. Needless to say, a lot of the banks have had these ATMs out there only a couple of years, and they're going, wait a minute, we've got a mandatory upgrade. It gets upsetting to them. What are the key benefits, though? So when we're talking about yeah, you're going to have to migrate to Windows 10. What is really some of the things that we can tout about it that makes a difference to a banker? One of the primary things is advanced malware protection. That's the best thing that Windows 10 is touting right now, is their advanced level of securities and the ability to deliver patches in a really quick time period and so forth. But what they're talking about here is really this threat that we've been having with ATM jackpotting. So they are promising ways to lock down the PC so that no other USB or black box device can ever tap in and extract data or make the ATM do something. So one of the things they're starting to tout is, hey, we're going to really be able to affect types of crime out there. They're also going to offer improved security by blocking trustations. You see, Windows 10, the internet, therefore a lot of third-party applications to ride on the same rails as that ATM, perhaps. So one of the things they'll be able to do is lock down trusted applications. None of those are ever into. The app requirement, working with a secure boot system, and when an ATM is booted up, it is only going to run tested and certified applications, which is how it authenticates. Now, the comment I made earlier, they tout an extended OS life for Windows 10, reported to be supported till 2026. The question is it going to go any longer than that? Because by the time the bank get into it, are we telling them that they have 6 years before they have to go through another migration? They just went through one with XP to Windows 7. So right now it's time to evaluate ATM fleets, and I'm sure you guys are well into that, but it's time to determine whether to upgrade or replace the ATM. We have a deadline looming, and the FIs are really trying to look for the best way to save on cost and how to get there. Really, the key to upgrade path, as a lot of you know, is the PC that's in that ATM, is having enough power and memory to support Windows 10, and most importantly, a 64-bit architecture that it will be required for that. So that's why when you're talking to manufacturers, there is a question about what cores that exist in the field are going to be upgradable, and then what are you going to have to do? Are you adding memory to that, and then what is the cost there? So there are a lot of variables that you have to break down. So when you're talking to your manufacturers, know what type of core you have, find out what they're doing, and make sure that you're ready to support, if you do an upgrade, a 64-bit architecture. The key to the replacement path is, since the requirement is to replace the ATM due to incompatibility, it may be wise to look at all other things that Windows 10 can do in advanced functionality. They're going to have to migrate. What is that going to benefit them as? Well, let's first talk about the failure to upgrade. In the event that a bank or credit union does not wish to upgrade and they lose the support of Windows 7, they have to realize that they get no security updates, no application patches, no technical support from Windows should they run into an issue. Now, like with Windows 7, there is going to be, for those one-offs, the ability to purchase extended support from Windows. That, from what we have been told, is an extremely expensive thing to do. Maybe only some of the biggest banks in the world will ever even consider doing that. But what happens when you don't have the ability to offer security updates and so forth, and having no support for the operating system, you no longer are compliant with PCI DSS standards, and the owners of the ATM or the deployers will face the possibility of penalties if they don't comply. That's why it's going to be a mandate across the board here. But here's some features and benefits to talk about with your bankers. You have improved protection of cardholder data, improved protection against malware and tampering at the ATM, a life cycle of 10 years on the software, advanced user interface for contactless transactions. We've been seeing greater amounts of requests for the ability to use a mobile device to conclude the transaction at an ATM. And of course, with Windows 10, the advantage for, say, a bank that's looking for a cross-platform or omni-channel, if you will, view, they want a concise and consistent user experience. What does that mean? They want to be able to use online banking, mobile banking, ATM transactions, the kiosks, in-branch tablets, everything in that branch should be integrated across Windows 10 to give that cardholder the same experience at whatever screen they are at. The logins have to be the same. So if whenever they go to an ATM, it should be quite similar to their mobile device, to their online experience. And if they go in and apply for a loan in the bank, it should be something like that too. So the whole advantage, marketing-wise, is a seamless across-the-board approach, which is what the banks have been asking for. So omni-channel presence is what this will do. But it even enables you to take that across to digital media and signage. So you can do toppers, digital walls that are all coordinating with the same type of media and marketing that you're pushing across the ATM. You can also control teller workstations, cash recycling, and of course, the most important part for the bank, no matter the touch point where the cardholder is, the bank or credit union wants their brand recognition across all channels. You're going to see their colors, their logos, and they are certainly going to know you well enough to pitch the right type of advertisements to you. So that's how they're addressing that today. I think you guys have clearly seen the rise of ITMs, where bankers are looking for more of an intelligent type of device that gives more access to additional applications. And what we've been seeing out there is a pretty nice array of very fine products from all the major manufacturers. And we've also have, like what Fred Wheeler, fellow FSPA member, is doing in the cloud technology, using those multifunction kiosks. We're going to see those evolve very quickly, because that's where the bankers are thinking. If we already have to upgrade, let's upgrade. Let's play big. So when they're looking at that, they're looking at the ability to deliver personal touch. And we've certainly seen video tellers pop up everywhere. Now, these are becoming more affordable. They're actually working in the majority of cases where they're out there. And though I don't know that I need a video teller when I go to an ATM, I am guessing that there's a subset out there that's out of our industry that clearly needs help. I don't know, but the video teller approach is clearly to get as personal with the cardholder as possible, so that it is seamless as if you went into the bank. But they're also looking to add new services, and all the big banks have already begun doing this. Certainly, like Wells Fargo has been able to do a lot with mobile banking, integrating with the ATM. But the next big thing we see are the ability to do NFC payments, near field communication, where we have devices on the ATMs that are enabled to accept cell phone payment types or pre-code transactions. Money transfers are becoming popular, but are we going to see PayPal, Venmo, things like that come onto an ATM for a fast option? Check cashing is becoming more popular again, in terms of, if you're getting a multifunction terminal, that may be something that you add. Cash recycling, I think, is going to continue to be very big in the US market one way or another, either in ATMs, kiosks, or definitely behind the counter at banks. Coin redemption is very big amongst credit unions. Loan applications at a multifunction kiosk, and of course card services, such as being able to change a PIN or reissue a card if yours is stolen, or so forth. The ability to reissue a customized plastic. Now, let's talk a little bit about the ATM lockdown, because there's a couple of elements that you can refer to. The security level on Windows 10 is touted as being, quite secure, easily upgraded, and they promised to lock down things in a better way than Windows 7 was able to. ATMs will be able to control and secure single-purpose devices as well as multifunction devices, but only uses features that are appropriate for ATM users. It uses a feature called Device Guard, which resists malware and unexpected code being introduced to the PC core. Secure boot, which is software can't be tampered with while offline. So if the ATM goes offline, there's no way somebody can hack into it through a black box scenario. Black box attacks, these are types of devices. We've been seeing them lately in California, and they're using USBs. Black boxes we haven't quite seen yet, but we're also seeing, skimming attacks on large as well. But what they're talking about preventing here is attacks across the network, because in some scenarios, if a bank is processing themselves, or they are on a tight network where everything is on the rails back and forth, once a malware is introduced, it can be introduced across to other terminals. So finding those points of compromise become very important. Insider attacks, which are generally rogue technicians that go in and attempt to plug into things, and physical attacks, which are related to that as well. But the value of Windows 10 really starts off with security. The other things that Windows 10 is going to be able to do is it's going to improve and make easier for the banks to develop personalized messaging to each and every cardholder. It'll be based on what they read on the card. If I'm a member of that credit union, it's going to be a message to me that will be different than somebody who's a non-member. It also, with Windows 10, is ensuring compliance. The other thing that's very important to financials right now, omni-channel technology, something that is started on a mobile device, being completed later at an ATM. And right now, the primary way it's being done is setting up an ATM withdrawal. And so right when you pull up to the ATM, all you do is enter a code or present your phone to an NFC device. So it's pretty slick, very fast. And that's what is a security benefit for it. For the pre-order money with a one-time code access, you're never having to enter the same PIN when you are doing one-time code access for your ATM transactions. So it's an additional level of security there. Also, operational efficiency. You have more options at the ATM, and with these very intelligent devices, they're going to be doing a lot of the services that used to be teller-based. So it gets a little more automated. Banks have been dreaming of the day they could reduce their teller staff. Here it comes. First steps for the banks and for you: review your ATM fleet. Can the ATM be upgraded? Is it just a matter of replacing the PC core and the software, or is it a full replacement that's required? Everyone should be gathering that relevant data, the hardware specs, the software specifications, paying close attention to these components. You want to know what the installed memory is. You want to know what level and revision of printers on board, and of course deposit modules or mechanisms. You want to know what revisions those are, because you may need to do firmware upgrades. Develop a migration plan. Upgrade hardware first, because that's got to happen, and that'll happen a lot over 2019. We're seeing every bank that's considered upgrades or replacements really starting that migration path starting in January. Evaluate their inventory, develop a cost analysis for either replacing or upgrading, and then at the same time, talk to them about these added features. We're seeing opportunities to add anti-skimming and anti-shimming devices. Those are easy to add because there's another level of fear out there and a high priority over attacks on ATMs. But this is the time to talk to them about any other auxiliary upgrade that they may need. Or maybe they want to start looking at developing software that enables them to be better at an ATM, smarter, or more importantly to them is recognizing that customer and delivering more unique items to them. So what you want to do, first of all, though, is take care of hardware. software is coming, and it's not out there from all people and ready on all networks, but it's coming. What you have to know is that if you are using a PC core that is Windows 10 ready, as it is specified by a manufacturer, you need to make sure you have the migration rights for Windows 10 so that all you have to do is purchase the software and the license for Windows. But for a limited time, running Windows 7 on that PC core will be just fine, and you'll be safe and through 2020. The core configuration that you need to have for any of these in a PC core would be a 64-bit architecture, a minimum of 4 gig of memory, an Intel 4th generation or equivalent processor, and always know that Windows 10 ready processors are ready for multi-function environments or single-function environments. It's a rather robust operating system. As we conclude 2018, the majority of FIs are evaluating Windows 10. Those with ATMs will require upgrades at a minimum, meaning your opportunity in 2019 to go out and replace PC cores and probably some additional preventive maintenance at the same time is quite good. So for the service companies, I see 2019 being a positive year for us. If we're not out there working with our banks closely on this migration and transition to Windows 10, we're missing out on something. So begin working with them if you haven't already. But those financial institutions with obsolete ATMs, or maybe they are a de novo or just never had ATMs for whatever reason, they do require new ATMs. This is a great opportunity for you to go in and tout the latest lines of intelligent ATMs that are out there. We're seeing that some banks are looking to get the types of models that can be upgraded a year later into an ITM. So they may want to start at a lower level. Just give me an ATM today, but give me an upgrade path for ITM later. So consider that when you're quoting them new equipment. As budgets for 2019 are being finalized, it's pretty clear all eyes are on the migration path, and many are adding functionality. And where I think that it becomes maybe additional revenue stream for the folks of FSPA is that this is maybe going to require additional professional services that folks that are wise can get into. And the big one is ATM personalization. Now, we've been programming ATMs forever. All the folks on this phone call here, we've been doing this and we've been customizing. Why does it still seem to be so important? It's simply because the better you are able to deliver that message from the 15 seconds that person is staring at the screen, the better chance you have of getting them as a member of your credit union or a part of your bank, and you have the opportunity to loan them money. So there is a ton of focus on I want their attention in that little short span of time. What they want to do with ATM personalization across the board, any of the RFQs we've entered into this year have asked for preset withdrawals and receipt preferences, preset deposit receipt preferences, common withdrawal amounts be set, email receipt capability. They'd like the ability to either email it or print it out or no receipt at all. So that's type of things that you can help your bank get to when they work with their processor and network. Cardless withdrawal capability, this ability to use NFC is really piquing everyone's interest. And it's a small step, it's a small add-on product for them to do. So it's a good upgrade opportunity to go out there and upgrade what terminals can be with this type of reader device. And they still have the card reader, it's just a different area that they do the NFC read. And getting even more personal, birthday messages, anniversary messages. I don't know if that matters a whole lot, but you know, Wells Fargo really remembers my anniversary. I don't know why, but they do. Region-specific messaging. Banks want to be able to very quickly deliver new rates if it applies to one area, not another. They want to be able to isolate where that all goes. And then, of course, one-on-one messaging. The ability to know who you are as a customer or potential customer and knowing what to deliver to you. They're going to ask you to help them develop very concise marketing stories that are going to be pitched to customers and non-customers alike. These types of developments take time, effort, and a little bit of marketing savvy, but they're quite lucrative. Professional services is something that are good add-on revenue things for members here. I think you should take a look at that. But as I was studying more about Windows 10 this past few weeks and digging into what is the newest and latest, I wanted to know why is there excitement out there in the technology of it? Because if you look on certain manufacturers' sites, they talk about, you know, hey, you have the ability to use our devices to gauge what's going on in the environment. Well, why would that be important to a bank or credit union? Well, they may want to use the sensors to literally get a foot traffic count on a daily basis. They want to know how many people come by the ATM, what's the traffic, how many people use the ATM. And then once they're using it, they can get all of those demographics. But what they may want to do is use the camera's ability to view the environment to determine whether it's even worthy of having an ATM in that location or whether they're not putting enough cash in that ATM. But it also allows them to know a little bit more about their demographic. They're not doing, facial recognition or anything. What the camera is able to do is just get a very general sense of male, female, average age, and a little bit along those lines of data, so that you're allowed to at least make an assumption of who is all in front of your ATM. That becomes very interesting, especially if it's becoming target-specific messaging as a forefront. If you have a new ATM out there and you know your demographic, you're going to pitch certain ads towards them that don't appeal to maybe another demographic. So we're getting into the age now where we can do where it's not just every ATM looks exactly the same on their advertising bit, but they have the ability to be smarter than that. And they're able to pitch a little more precisely. Okay, now we know you're a member, but which member? What cardholder are you? So they know exactly what Mark Smith has or has not in his portfolio when he goes to the bank. So they pitch particular products based on what I don't have. That's something that's powerful for the banks, because their best means to draw in any additional business is through their touch points. And ATMs and the kiosks that will exist out there are going to be their primary point where a customer literally stares at the screen for a few seconds. Otherwise, it's emails that are just tossed away to the side. Nobody pays attention to their bank. So the other thing that they can do is detect the customer's presence, meaning that they can allow lobby access after hours. If they can detect the customer's presence via a card or some sort of proximity thing, much like a phone and an NFC device, you can gain access into a secure lobby, perhaps. Offer personalized services. Again, they're targeting down to the nth degree on each person. Pretty soon they're going to know what your, the things you like to do for entertainment. They may pitch some dinner things for you. I don't know, but they can. That's the whole thing that they're aiming at. And then, of course, there's mobile integration with beacon notification. Now, this is a retail strategy that I find interesting, that it may go into the banking strategy. But if any of you have beacon notification, you'll know that if you go into, say, a Starbucks and you allow them to beacon you, as soon as you walk in, you're going to be texted whatever it is on their special or a discount or something, but they're going to tag you and say, remember, you need a coffee now. The banks will do the same thing if they use beacon technology. and they'll be able to do that. And they'll know when you're in proximity of an ATM, and they may flash you of thank you for being a customer or something to that effect. But they now have that in their disposal. And under Windows 10, there are many banks that are going to utilize this to the nth degree. I certainly know that the top 3 or 4 are already knee-deep in this technology. But what else can be done while you're out there in terms of artificial intelligence at ATMs? And when they talk about artificial intelligence, it's really the software's ability to learn mundane things over and over again without the consequence of error or forgetting. So they are talking a lot about how is AI going to improve the ATM experience for someone who owns and deploys and services. With artificial intelligence, one of the benefits for service companies will be predictive maintenance of ATM machines. A lot like how cars now have the knowledge of your mileage and so forth. It would be very nice to have ATMs for level of diagnosis, and being able to predict when that cash dispenser is going to begin to see an end of life, a card reader that may be getting to a point where it needs to be replaced. Perhaps it can identify when a screen is losing its ability to be vibrant, or it's losing its tone. But it also can be used for learning cybersecurity, again, for allowing people in and out of a secure location by just knowing that they're in proximity. Advanced use of ATM cameras, here again, is being able to look at the demographic around them and determine what to do. Do we keep an ATM here? Do we expand our operations? And most importantly, once we do, how do I talk to these people, and how do I get them to use this terminal more often? Facial recognition for security. With these cameras and with Windows 10 comes the ability to do facial recognition. So it could be very, very well be a possibility. Some banks integrate with that. So it's something that I see coming in the future, but I've also seen that just across the board, biometrics have been slow to evolve in the United States. But right now, let's get beyond EMV. But the one that is most interesting, and I think that is most viable today, is forecasting ATM cash cycles. I had an opportunity a couple of years ago to work with a company that had a major cash issue, and they just had so many thousands of locations that they were unable to make sure that cash was present at all times. And the problem when you get into, big companies that want cash is they don't understand how the cash providers cannot provide same-day cash, emergency cash overnight, or something like that. And then, of course, they never understand the excessive charges that a cash company will charge them for any services beyond the norm. With artificial intelligence, one of the values is that you can use machine intelligence, if you will, to determine when those cycles in the cash are going to occur. Now, a lot of that can be pretty much common sense. Over the holidays, weekends, things like that are going to be bigger or better in certain locations. But you have the opportunity then to add more cash. If you're having one ATM that isn't doing so well, maybe you're moving cash from one to the other. But what you can do is always have a forecast well in advance of what those cash cycles will be so that you can tighten that up as best as possible. Your biggest expense is probably vault cash out there. And if you can minimize the cost for that, or at least show the bank that you have a means to forecast what's needed per terminal, I think that becomes really powerful. Like that becomes part of it, as powerful as remote management software is for service teams. The ability to get in there, look at what's happening, but to also get enough intelligence to make a forecast based on what you've been seeing over a span of time. So what that requires is artificial intelligence. The machine learns over time what those cycles are. I find that pretty fascinating. So AI, I don't think needs to be a scary prospect for folks. I don't think these are going to turn into so intelligent that they become automated robots. But in a sense, the ATM's future is going to be using a lot of this AI features to further make it efficient on the cost of managing an ATM. So you can help guide your banks and credit unions to that direction. So Windows 10 is more than a compliance issue. That's another thing that you want to get across to folks today. It's more than just mandatory. It's a better way to future-proof business. You're going to be compliant across the board. You're using software that's the most widely and globally used software. Your ability to interact with third-party architecture and to bring in apps, things that you've never done at ATMs, now is available to you. So there are going to be folks out there that pioneer some very unusual things at ATMs, and then those that remain very conservative. And within all of that, you should be able to find some that need your consultation advice. The Windows 10 will enable new features and transaction types. There's no doubt about that. So that should be exciting for bankers and for deployers, even the independents that do outsourcing programs. This may be of interest to you because you are relying on transaction revenue to some degree. So transaction types are going to be interesting because I don't know how the breakdown works, but each of those transaction types has to have some sort of interchange related to them. So again, there's revenue being driven back to the deployer, to the service provider, if you're one and the same. So there's additional revenue when you enable new features, transaction types. The other thing is enhance the customer experience. What is most important to the banker is that customer should never go to an ATM and be confused, not for a second. It should be so self-explanatory what to do. And I think the issues you're having right now today are, hey, an EMV card reader works differently than we've taught you in the past to dip and pull out real quick. This is one of the biggest things we have. But with a Windows 10 thing, you can enhance the customer experience, have very vibrant things, videos, all sorts of things. Right now, we're dealing with them with decals to help people know what to do. But again, you have bigger, more enhanced capability with the Windows 10. The other is to merge physical and digital channels. It is going to be remember how automated deposit was just sort of a dream out there, and we were, would everybody get away, do away with envelope depositories? And basically that's kind of happened. I think what's going to happen in the next trend is that everyone's going to go to this mobile device to an NFC reader at the ATM. That is the merging of physical and digital channels. Allow my phone to make that ATM do something without me touching the ATM or enter. All I have to do is either present the phone or enter the code that it gave me beforehand. And there's two methods to pull my cash. Again, each time you do that, it's a one-time code. There's no way someone is going to shoulder surf you and read a PIN and be able to compromise you. Marketing in a personal manner, that's a big deal. I've talked a lot about it, and that's really where I think the potential is. Marketing departments are going to do well if they engage with their banks and also with the manufacturers to begin building storylines or different marketing approaches. Look for unique ways to reach everyone. We're so inundated with pop-up ads and things like that. It's going to have to be unique. Your bank isn't going to want to just be a dull screen. They're going to want to be unique. And then the other thing, of course, is with Windows 10, you can gather data, and that's where grabbing the demographic information is so vital. You can remain relevant, secure, efficient, and adaptable. So the beauty of what Windows 10 bring, if they do utilize the whole architecture for what it can do, is they can really know more about their cardholder base than they've ever known. So it's really a good opportunity for banks to get very technologically savvy. Okay, At this time, BJ, I would like to open up the lines for group discussions, and if anyone has questions at this time, but perhaps if you have experiences with migration that have been a little bit different or that you would like to talk about, that's fine. If you have common questions that the banks have asked you that I haven't answered, we can certainly bring that up. But most importantly, I hope that you've identified where there is opportunity for you. This does open vertical markets. I can tell you that I'm already headstrong into several of them because I'm always looking 5 years out. Where's it going to go? Who are we going to serve tomorrow? So right now, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, we have a question from Mike Bodine. Do you have any idea what percentage of the hosts have certified Windows 10 on NCR, Diebold, or Hyosung?
No, that's very hard information to gather right now. The only thing that's definite is an answer that we will be ready. But in terms of anyone announcing certification, no, I haven't heard that. Nor have I seen Windows 10 software being released to all the major manufacturers in terms of units going in the field. It is my understanding everything still is Windows 7 and an extraordinary amount of Windows XP units that I'm shocked are still out there.
Okay. How ready do you think the banks are for the Windows 10 upgrades? Do you think they're realistic about their expectations?
Well, I don't get to talk to banks nationwide. I have a very small geography where I speak directly with bankers. They are ready to migrate yesterday. They're ready to get it over with because this has been, it's coming, and then now we're here, and they're sick of being told what to do by the manufacturers, most importantly. When Diebold and NCR walk in, it's pretty much whatever you got's got to go, we're going to put in all new. That's just basically the story they get. I think the banks and credit unions are more ready than any other segment in the market right now. And for most of them, it's really just a service requirement and not that big of a deal. The software certification, however, it's really hard to get an answer from anyone where they stand today.
Okay. Could you elaborate a little bit on the cash forecasting and AI, that connection?
Well, yeah, and definitely. Cash forecasting it's being done somewhat and has been for years. I mean, you basically have an idea of what you need in an ATM, and everyone has to make an intelligent, analytical decision on what to do. Why people are touting artificial intelligence is clearly that humans are prone to error, oversight, and it's typically because we get into these very mundane analytics, especially when it comes to cash. So the point that the research I had done, the point it was making is the machine can make all of those mundane decisions of, oh, interesting that the demand for tens is more than they were if you have a multi-denominational ATM. Things like that, or that there is a unusual amount of withdrawals on Tuesdays for some unknown reason now. You know, maybe something has gone there. You're looking for all of the unexpected types of things. Now, in the past, that would be done by somebody manually writing down, okay, I have 100 ATMs and I've noticed this anomaly over here, and next year I'll plan accordingly. The point of artificial intelligence is the machine does that, and it will do it. And in theory, would be able to communicate to a person who then works with the cash company accordingly. But I think if you had just the ability to minimize errors in cash forecasting, and you could provide a more efficient service in a timely manner and not miss those runs or not miss those times where it has to be topped off, you're saving the bank a whole lot of money if you can do that. So I think those of you that are working with Garda, Loomis, whoever, take a look at what they're doing there and find out ways that as Windows 10 becomes a part of it, how you can integrate with that. Much like how smart safes became part of that cache management ecology. And I think smart safes are also going to be a part of that puzzle too, where all of them talk via Windows 10 in a way that a armored service has the ability to know exactly what to do, when to do it, and never miss. But the value of AI clearly is error reduction.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Last chance. Do you have anything you'd like to ask Mark before we close up today? I do want to let you know that the slides will be emailed this afternoon, and the recording of this webinar should be up on the FSPA website by tomorrow afternoon. And I guess that's it. So thank you for spending your time with us today, and a big thank you to Mark for putting this together for us. So thank you, Mark.
It's truly a pleasure to always be a part of FSPA, and thank you for having me, BJ. Thank you for joining, folks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. And if there's any topics you'd like to see covered in the future, just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.